Hello, everybody. Just a quick FYI that this episode was recorded on Sunday, March 20th, before the news of the Matt Ryan trade to the Colts had come through. It just happened as I'm editing this, so I'm coming through just to let you know that we are aware of that trade. We do talk about Baker Mayfield potential destinations, and one of those that we speak about is the Colts. We do know now that that's not really a potential option for him. Um, we will speak more on that in next week's episode, probably. Um, unless the trade's already gone through, then we'll probably talk about that. But just as an FYI, that we are aware. But we don't record these episodes every day, so we can't be fully up to it, and it takes me a little while to edit them, so they don't come out immediately after recording. So please enjoy the episode. Thanks. Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Pinecone Sports Network. On today's episode, we're going to talk about NFL free agency and the big trades of the week. I really hope you enjoy it. So everybody just go around and say your names in order.
My name's Luke.
What's good? It's Casey.
I'm Greg.
All right. So first, we're going to get into the AFC West and the impact that Davantae Adams has on it. So, who wants to start us? Who's got an opinion?
Honestly, first thing, AFC West. It changes like short-term stuff, especially like middle season stuff. But the thing about it is does it really change long run? Like I put the Broncos to win the Super Bowl in my hot take, but that's a hot take. Really, does it change anything? Because the Chiefs probably win it anyway. Especially after adding Juju and adding anybody else, I'd say the Chiefs probably win it anyway, probably pretty easily. They beat all those
I don't
teams.
know that Juju's that big of an upgrade.
I thought it was pretty
Like
big.
I don't.
But what you got to
I
think,
think it's annoying, but like
they don't have a bunch of receivers. Their whole issue is that they had two receivers last year, and it was Kelsey and it was Tyreek. You get
Mhm.
Juju, who can be your third option. And what we've already talked about Juju, what's been the narrative about Juju his entire career? When he played with AB, he was open because he had a complimentary guy, or he was the complimentary guy. Then AB
Yeah.
left. He wasn't the complimentary guy. He was the A1 guy. He got guarded every play. He got shut the fuck down. Now you're watching Juju. He's going to be the third option. He's the perfect complimentary guy, apparently, from everything we've been talking about for years with Juju. And if you put him
Yeah.
in Kansas City, maybe it's not changing the dial. But did Kansas City really need to change the dial? They're Kansas City.
I
That's what I'm
think
saying.
you're,
Is I don't think
yeah,
that I think it's a big market forcing thing, like where it's like not necessarily saying that Kansas City is a big market, but it's just like this dynamic of like super teams that's been talked about in other sports that's kind of falling into the NFL at this point, where like their teams players are not going to like the teams that are not good,
hmm
or the like to make the team, take a team from like middle of the pack to make them better. They're just joining the biggest teams in hopes of being along with the ride whenever they go for a Super Bowl.
Well, perhaps that's the whole issue now, and I talked about this in the group chat with cap space. The
Yeah,
thing
no, I agree.
yeah.
no space, and I'm not saying that you should go out and penalize teams if they're using cap space fairly, but the rules apparently don't like
Matter. Like they don't exist.
they don't restrict anything. There's no point of it. And that's why
No,
you're seeing this is because you're seeing guys like Von Miller who maybe the small teams could compete if they could offer him this 6 year deal for that much money and be the only
right.
team offering that much money. But
hmm
you're seeing good teams be able to offer star players 6 year, $25 million a year contracts, $20 million a year contracts. And
And
no
it's
one's able to sign players if you don't win
it's
10
not
games.
even just that, but also that like dudes are willing to take pay cuts to go
Yeah.
chase a ring.
Yeah,
Like there's
been true.
I don't. There's not a real minimum at any in any form for like, oh, this dude's made a Pro Bowl. A Pro Bowl caliber wide receiver should make at least this much money, right?
hmm
On their
Yeah.
next deal. Like when signing a contract, if you are a Pro Bowl, if you have made a Pro Bowl and play wide receiver, you must be paid at least X amount of dollars. Right. But like there's caveats to that where that like wouldn't work. But like
Yeah.
I don't know, it feels like that there should be a some sort of system so that you can't just straight up take pay cuts and just go everybody go play for the Chiefs and the Bills and the Chargers and
Yeah.
the teams like
I
that
feel like
that are like,
It's really, really hard to just stop players from taking pay cuts.
yeah.
You
it
have to do
is.
something with the signing bonuses and stuff because I'm not sure how it
That's
works.
what it is.
Correlated into signing bonuses and creating void years and back ending the contracts where
Right.
you're adding signing bonuses on the back end years. I think that's what you're doing. And
Mhm.
so what you're going to do
Yeah, it
is
is.
there's no way to stop players from taking pay cuts. You're always going to have that in any league because players want to compete, especially when
Right.
they're old. But you're just going to have to end up putting a limit on how many years you can back end a signing bonus, and that's what
Or
you
like
got
the
to do.
void years. The
Yeah,
void years has been so
Yeah.
big this year because like last two of Vaughn's are void years. Aaron Rodgers has like 2 or 3 void years. It's kind of annoying.
I think Vontae
Yeah,
too.
Davantae. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure he
Davantae
does.
does. I mean, Davante's now the highest paid non-quarterback.
Yeah,
Yeah.
by far.
He's single highest paid non-quarterback.
Yeah.
It's
He
not by a
deserves
lot.
every cent, though.
He
He's only
deserves it. Yeah, you're right.
he's 300,000 ahead of I think it's TJ Watt. I think TJ Watt's second at 28 mil.
Well, I think before the Davantae trade, I think the Raiders could have easily went 0-6 in their own division. Now they're like
I
actually
agree.
competing, I feel like, because like they were doing nothing. Like they were a team that needed to do something in free agency. They didn't get a corner, they didn't get a receiver, they didn't get anybody. So like I don't know if they're purposely holding out for Davantae, but the Davantae move is
I still
huge.
think they probably only win like 2 divisional games of the 6.
I probably have them going like
Like
3-3 in the division,
They
2
could,
and
I think,
4 like that.
I think they could sweep the Broncos, and then I
I'd
think they
agree.
could
it's possible.
win out of those games.
I think the
I
Chargers are going to be the best in that division. Truthfully,
I agree. The
I think the
Chargers are
defense
my
is so
my favorite
scary.
in that division.
It's just
That's an insane defense.
they got 2 top 10 pass rushers, and then they beefed up the D line also with Sebastian Joseph Day, and then they got Derwin in the backfield. He's arguably, and I think, the best safety
And
in
they
the
picked
league.
up JC Jackson.
Yeah, Mr. Interception. If your nickname's Mr. Interception, that's a big signing no matter what.
Yeah.
And then you got
I mean,
Keenan
I don't
Allen
know
on the other side. That's insane.
Yeah, the offense is what worries me. And that's saying so much about that team, that the
Mhm.
offense of that team, because that offense was great last year.
Yeah, they
To say
shouldn't
that
work.
the offense is what's worrying me now is great.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
because I mean you can't even say that because if you look at the offense last year, they were good and they got everybody coming back.
I know that's what I'm saying.
As
I know
a,
that's what
as
I'm.
a Packers fan, I just need to
I'm
say,
saying that defense is.
you should be more worried about the special teams than the offense.
I mean, yeah.
Special teams
Well, I
can
mean,
lose
like,
you a game.
But if you
I mean,
have
it's
to
like the
worry about
2010
one or the
Chargers.
other, if you have to worry about one or the other, offense or
Right.
defense, you're more worried about defense because those players. I mean, Khalil Mack's a little older. I'm not saying that it's
Yeah.
going to suck, but you're more worried about the defense. But yeah, I'd
Sure.
agree.
He's
But I'm
coming off
saying,
an
like,
injury.
that
Yeah.
defense is beefed up so much that I'm like very confident in it.
Yeah.
And I
Oh
don't
yeah, no doubt.
I don't feel like that they just have a star on offense other than Justin Herbert. Like, Keenan Allen is very good, but I wouldn't put him in the category as like the top wide receivers with like the other guys. I think he's like probably top 10, but I
Top
don't
10.
think he's like top 5.
He's not a
But that's
super.
He's
You
a
know,
different type of receiver too, though.
he
yeah.
is
I think
very much
Austin
so.
is like an A1 offensive weapon, though.
Yeah, he can do literally everything.
If you use him
Yeah, I mean, he's
way
good.
and the amount they've been using him, he's an A1 offensive weapon. I'm not saying he's on the level of other, I'll say A1 offensive
Sure.
weapons like Tyreek Hill or a Dalvin Cook or something that you
Mhm.
put in
Well,
offense just changes it. But I mean, he alters that offense a good amount, and I mean the amount that they run it and throw it to him. Just talking about throwing it to him, it's a guy
sure.
that completely changes your offense, and you don't have the number one receiver, but when you have a guy like that, and then you have 2 good receivers, I don't know if you need the number one guy.
Who do they have at tight end?
It's Jared Cook.
And Donald Parham Jr.
Oh, Jared Cook.
I don't know how I thought
Deep
of Donald.
cut. Deep cut. Yeah.
Uh,
I forgot about Jared Cook. That's who I was thinking of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's probably, to me, is the favorite in that division, probably.
Mhm. Back to the Juju signing, I think that's pretty tremendous because like last year they had a lot of success with their two throwing options because Tyreek Hill draws so much attention. When he draws attention, Travis gets open. When Travis draws too much attention, Tyreek gets open. So now you got a third guy coming in there to completely throw off the equation. So I feel like no matter what, somebody's got to be open. Like there's no way they can cover all three of those guys. And it's like kind of back to the AB thing. Like AB got so much attention and Juju had an amazing year.
Do you think Clyde's capable this year as a running back? Like, do you think he's like on the level that we were expecting out of him at some points? With like
he was overhyped.
That's gone.
I think he was still overhyped, and my expectations are still quite low on him now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
honestly,
I'm not going to say my expectations are like dropped to the floor low because I think
no. But I'm saying like
it's part of it is underuse because if you used him the amount you used like an Austin Eckler, I'm not saying he's as good as Austin Eckler, but any running back, it's about touches a lot of the time. But sure, he hasn't been effective on all of his touches like I think he should have been. But yeah, I think the ceiling that he had, that's gone. But that doesn't mean the floor is like terrible. I'd say he's on the level of like a Javonte Williams, maybe a Michael Carter.
I think he could be there. I'm pretty confident he could be on the level of like those guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean that run offense is like kind of the only piece of that team. I mean, obviously their defense is still what it is, but I mean offensively, their run game is not on par with the other best teams in the league.
Well, the question about their run game too is it an issue that they can't do it or that they just don't do it at all?
You're exactly right. Yeah.
Saying that if the Chiefs decided to run it 40 times a game, they'd have immense success, or that it's better for them to run it. But all I'm saying is like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, maybe he's not been as good, and I thought he would be better than he has been. But you're really like shitting on a guy who hasn't got the run he was supposed to get.
Yeah.
Right.
See, the Chiefs tried too hard with this like Patrick Mahomes best passing quarterback narrative, so they always just want to air the ball out. They're very aggressive with it.
It's not like it doesn't make sense to throw the ball when you have him.
Yeah.
Right.
You should. If you have Pat Mahomes, you throw it 40 times a game.
Yeah.
There's an old Peyton Manning quote, and he says he liked when the team, like, sometimes as a quarterback, you just need a mental break. And so it's nice to just get some scheduled runs in there. So if they can just keep that type of stuff to where he can just have a playoff to just kind of recalibrate, keep it even killed, that's really all they need to do.
Well, that's what I think is he's a guy who can do that. He's not a bad running back. He's a quick guy. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, even on plays where he's not just getting a handoff from Pat, like you can see plays where he runs just like a quick out or just runs right to the side and Pat just pops it over to him and stuff like that. Like that's not hurting. Like that doesn't wear down your quarterback. And I guess the issue might be, do the Chiefs need to earlier in the season try to work the run game in more or work in easier looks for Pat and those receivers?
Just to establish it.
Yeah, I think exactly establish is the correct word there.
Not just to establish, but think about how worn out the past 2-3 years, every year, Tyreek Hill and Kelsey have been after being two of the top guys in the league reception-wise and going to the playoffs every year, going deep into the playoffs and playing extra games. So that's another thing about Juju is those guys aren't getting worn out as fast this year.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully.
And that's something that relying on the run game could fix as well. But they also, who is it, number 40? The backup for Clyde Edwards-Helaire? He's a big boy.
Darrell Williams, I think is what his name is.
It's
Darrell
Williams.
No, Derek Gore.
North and
Derek
South.
Gore. Are you thinking about Derek Gore?
Yeah,
No.
I think it's Gore.
No, it's Darrell Williams.
No,
I had him in fantasy this year.
It's Derek Gore.
Casey.
I'm telling you right now. He was his backup earlier this
Google
year.
it.
I'm telling you right now, Derek Gore was playing in those playoffs.
Maybe in the playoffs. I'm saying during the regular season, it was Darrell Williams because I had him in fantasy.
Derek Gore. I was thinking of Derek Gore.
Oh, I was thinking of Darrell, but yeah, Derek Gore's the backup right now. I don't even see a Darrell on the roster.
It may be Daryl with a Y.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't remember how it's spelled. I know I had him in fantasy.
Yeah, I know
I had him in fantasy when Clyde had hurt.
He was their backup earlier this season. He got worked out the lineup.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he did.
L. Darrell.
Scrub.
All right. We want to go to Deshaun.
That's what I was about to say. Let's hop into Deshaun Watson to Cleveland.
I think they win damn near everything.
I don't at all. It's not that big of an upgrade. I mean, I get that he's a much better.
Fucking moron. What are you talking about? It's not much that great. What are you on?
Give me a second.
You had him on your top 10 list, and he hasn't played in a year, and you're going to say it's not that big of an upgrade from Baker Mayfield, dude?
Let him make his point.
Baker Mayfield living on the.
I'm listening to you.
Bastards. God. I don't think it was that big of an upgrade for this reason. That the quarterback was not exactly their problem. Baker was not, he was not good, but he was average. He was a little under average, but he was not losing them games. He wasn't the cause of their losses when they lost. He wasn't winning them games either, but he wasn't losing the games. And adding Deshaun Watson will help.
What was losing them the game? Nick
Chubb was winning them the games.
No, what was
Nick
losing?
Chubb was accounting for.
What was losing them the games? Is what I'm asking you. If Baker was.
Probably those turnovers.
Baker was a part of it, but
Baker Mayfield himself.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He has an aggressive play style.
Yeah,
he will win or lose
my point is
by the nature of the way he plays the game.
I want to know if it wasn't him, what was it?
That defense was not strong. They gave up 40 points more than once.
Same argument you're using for Baker. It wasn't losing them many games. It wasn't winning them many games. There's a stronger argument for the defense being average than Baker because there's an argument Baker is ass. So I want you.
Sure.
You can make it. But what I'm saying is that team, other than Baker, is still not that strong that I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely the Super Bowl favorite right now. I don't think they're there. I don't think they're on par with that. I don't even think they're the head of that division.
I'm not going to.
They've gotten so much better during this offseason, though, and they were competitive last.
They've got two guys.
Because Amari's an upgrade over Jarvis.
They have two whole guys.
And then Deshaun Watson, which quarterback is solely the most important position in football.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
To go from a guy who could be an MVP candidate to a middle of the pack guy.
Yeah.
With those weapons and all the stud weapons, it's an easy upgrade to where they're going to definitely be in the running for the playoffs. They'll be around a 10-11 win team.
Yeah,
I think to guess right now before the draft.
Amari's a top 10 receiver, and saying top 10 these days is saying something big because, name off 20 receivers that are all great receivers. It's easy. And so, I think Amari is very, very talented.
Top 10.
I don't think so either. There's no way.
I don't know that he's top 10.
Top 10, top 15. Either way, saying something big. And then you got
I'll give you top 15,
Watson,
maybe.
Who's a double-headed monster. He can pass, he can run, he's great at both. And then you got Nick Chubb, one of the most underrated running backs in the league. He's not hated, so I'm saying he doesn't get enough attention. He's really, really good at what he does. So that three-headed monster on offense is insane. And then the defense, you're right, isn't great, but you got Denzel Ward, who's a great, great corner, and then you got Myles Garrett, who's becoming an elite pass rusher.
Yeah, Greedy Williams.
I
guess he said.
And Greg Newsome.
Yeah, those are all three.
They've got guys, but
they have guys at every position. Is the thing, Brecken. They have guys at every position now. Is the thing.
I just don't. I don't look at that team and say, yeah, that's the Super Bowl favorite. That's just not. I'm not willing to be at that point.
Where does it rank in the O line of that conference too? Because that matters a lot. It might have the second best O line.
I think they probably have best.
I mean, we're not really making the argument here that they're like Super Bowl locks. We're making the argument.
You said they were the favorite. You said
I said they could win it all.
You said they were going to win everything.
That was more of a joke. I already said that I think. I don't think they'll win it all, but I probably think either the Chiefs could win it all. The Chiefs probably better than anybody, or better than this year, next year. But I don't really think they'll win it all. But we're not making that argument. We're making the argument that Deshaun changes that team more than fucking Baker. And
no, I agree that he changes the team.
We're saying,
but I'm saying I don't think he becomes that, like that just pushes them over the edge to make them into a Super Bowl caliber team. I still don't.
I mean,
think
who's competing with them? It'll be them in Cincinnati.
That's what I'm saying. Well, what I was saying is that they are caliber, Super Bowl caliber. I'm just because I think
Greg's trying to piss me off. Greg's just trying to piss me off.
Deshaun's better than Lamar, even after a year off.
Yes.
No, he's not.
And then that roster's better than.
He's not a better passer, and he's not a better on those legs.
He's a better passer.
He's a better passer.
Honestly,
he's not better on his legs, but he's a better passer.
Mitchell's improved during his sitting, which he kind of needed because in college he only started 1 year. He needed some time to sit. If that improved him at all, because Steelers have had a pretty good offseason too so far, you might be looking at the Ravens being dead last in that division. And that is sincere.
No.
That's not planned.
I think it's a really tough division, and completely trying to avoid pissing you off, I think there's a chance that the Ravens place last. Just like a small chance, because they're all so good.
It depends on if Mitchell cooks.
There's equal chance that the Ravens win it.
No, there's not.
There is.
No, there's not.
The Browns destroy them, I think.
How can you say that the Ravens are not in the top two at least, in your opinion? Like, how do you think that the others?
Because the Browns and Cincinnati has better teams.
Oh yeah,
better quarterbacks, better teams.
I
mean, the Steelers are the only one, but the Steelers and Ravens are rivals, so they always play close.
I think both those teams wash the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean that's a possibility.
Like what?
So really, it's down to what Mitchell Trubisky is, because everything around. Because they got Miles Jack now, and he is one of the best linebackers.
Oh, I forgot about that sign.
That's crazy.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true. I did too.
I think
it all depends on Mitchell. That's literally it. O-line's a little old, but they still got Najee. Najee was one of the best backs in the league. What do the Ravens? What is their trajectory? What do they have? What could you argue that from last season looks good going into next season? There's not a lot.
Or better.
Health.
Yeah,
having guys back guys that have been hurt all year. We had the best tight end in the league last year. Who's presumptively not going to be any worse.
All right.
I mean, he's young.
If you didn't lose anything really, but you're gaining health, and you really didn't add much, look at 2 years ago. Whenever you just didn't have, whenever they were all playing. We'll do that. You want to do that?
I mean, Lamar's a different level player than he was then.
How do you know?
He's a much better passer. He's a much better passer than he was a couple years ago.
I mean,
his passing stats are way improved at this point.
But what's the team getting better around him? Because all I've watched is these other teams lap your ass. If you're counting on Lamar to just get better and watch all these other teams add guys and then add Deshaun Watson over Baker Mayfield, you're finna get your ass. You're about to get your ass.
We've added better receiving core than we had previously. Having
Bateman.
Okay, pause for a second. I can't actually think of his name. I can't think of what his name is.
Bateman and Hollywood Brown.
It still doesn't compete with any.
Bateman is what I was looking for.
Any of those other receiving cores. It's still the worst receiving core out of the AFC North.
And I'm thinking of guys you're not thinking of.
No, the Steelers are worse.
I don't think that pushes the
dial. I know that. I know who they added, but
I said I think they need like a big signing, like AB or Julio. Like that would really elevate them. Because somebody besides Marquise drops a lot Brown.
I mean, yeah. No, I agree. But
you can't depend on any of those receivers other than Mark Andrews.
I mean, Bateman's been really, really good. He's had like very few drops. And he has good yak.
You got to prove it to me. He did it over the course of, 8 weeks?
Yeah, he was injured half the
he was
season.
injured for half the season.
And in the first 3 games, he wasn't even getting touches. He played, I'm sure.
Correct. Let me see. Where are stats?
What if they just started running that old Georgia Tech offense and did some triple option? I'd see that. I'd like to see that. That'd make them more competitive because then you can be less talented on offense and compete.
Greg, do you remember years ago I came up with an idea where they could take Lamar and RG3 and run a 2-quarterback offense?
They did that.
Yeah, that was probably one of the worst takes of the year.
No, I was saying a whole offense dedicated to 2 quarterbacks. I was saying
that is the system.
I was saying you could run weird flea flickers and shit like that, weird
Right.
triple options where
they had the
Lamar
Heisman.
gets it. What?
They had the Heisman setup, which was Lamar, RG3, and Mark Ingram.
Yeah, they should have ran the Heisman setup, but for the whole year was what my opinion was. That was 3 years ago.
I mean, it was fun.
It probably served them better than what they're doing now.
I mean, yeah, I think that they're trying to force. I think last season they were trying to force the narrative that Lamar was a better passer, which he clearly is. But I think that was forcing them down a hole where they weren't letting him run as much as he needs to be, and just running the ball in general. But also having the problem of literally not having a capable running back on the team for most of the season, and having to rotate between 3 or 4 dudes, really screwed with having any sort of system for Lamar to feel solid about running wise, or Lamar or John Harbaugh, just being confident putting up rushing plays for anybody other than design QB runs, which really hurt our run game and allowed teams to know that we were going to pass essentially every play. And I think that really hurt the offense in its entirety. Frankly.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You got to let Lamar run. I mean, that's his best asset. That is what makes him him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why that's why he won an MVP.
Hurt.
Oh yeah, it's definitely
it's a worry, but I don't know. I mean, if you're worried about him getting hurt and so you're forcing him into a scenario where he's less good, then I don't see what the point of it is, right? If you're oh yeah, we want the longevity of his arm, but you're he's still he's slightly above average with an arm, but not by a lot.
I think that's when you need to just teach him how to slide and how to get out of bounds. Instead of just taking hits and trying to juke and shit, you got to just teach him to slide. Kyler. Kyler's an amazing slider, and then so is Russ. They both know how to get down instead of trying to juke and extend plays.
Physical runner, and you don't want that at all.
Yeah.
Look at Cam Newton now. He did the same type of stuff, and now he's barely in the league still.
But he's not injury prone or anything.
It's not the same type of stuff, but it's similar stuff. I'll agree with. I don't want to sound like I'm saying you're wrong at all, because Lamar is the closest thing to Cam compared to Russ or I'm not sure who else right now. Kyler, I guess, because he's more physical. But Cam literally was a tank though. Bro was the physical runner.
Yeah.
He had no speed. I'm not saying you're wrong at all.
Lamar's just fast.
Lamar
That's
is
the
faster,
difference.
And he doesn't do what
Lamar's closer to Mike Vick than he is to Newton.
At least Lamar doesn't think that he can drop his shoulder on guys.
Right. He doesn't. He evades. Yeah.
But he still takes some hits from safeties coming over the middle. I mean, those wear and tear on you. There's a reason offensive players get hurt more often than defensive players.
Well, I mean, defensive players are bigger on average.
And they're also giving the blows, not receiving them.
I'd say that.
I mean, 4 months of grown men running into you, it puts something on you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Let's transition over to finding a new landing spot for Baker Mayfield, where we think he would be a good fit.
All right.
I know Casey wants to start us here. I know Casey wants to start it.
I still think the Colts, because I still think the Colts are the team that have. It's not even more. Well, it's two different things. They have a roster that can win, But I think too, they are looking for a quarterback that they can like kind of be steady around. And if you get 1 year out of Baker Mayfield where he's okay, I think you could be steady because we've seen players, and I'm not saying players rule the front office, but like Darius Leonard talking about hating having 4 different quarterbacks all 4 years he's been there. And if you're looking for a guy like that, I think Baker's the perfect guy because he's a guy you can get for low value right now that has potential to become an option like that you can focus around or have a culture around. I'm not saying he will, but out of the guys you could get that could do that could have a culture change and you could instill confidence in, Baker's the cheapest guy you're ever going to get that has that chance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think if I'm Indy, right, I'm looking more for a guy like I feel like Baker's just the worst version of Jimmy Garoppolo, like in what he does. You know,
I feel like
they
the
do
Colts would be
similar
better off with
things.
Jimmy.
I think they would too, and I think that's because like they do the same thing. Jimmy does it better, but I mean, like Casey said, they could probably get Baker for cheaper. I
And
mean, they could
if you're
definitely get
getting,
Baker for cheaper between the
if
two.
you're
But if they're
getting
going to do the
Jimmy,
same thing, then
if you're getting Jimmy, how many years is he playing there?
Probably 2 or
I'm not
3.
saying he's
Truthfully,
a one and done, but if they're on the same level or a similar level, you can at least Baker can at least play like 3 years, and Jimmy, I mean, who knows if he gets 2? So
right,
and one guy's cheaper, so
yeah, no, I see your point. I was just making a second.
I actually want to give my
I
take
could,
on this because I've thought about it for a long time. So I think he should go to
yeah,
Seattle. And to kind of go off
I
what
agree.
KC said of him being a culture changer, is players love Baker Mayfield. I mean, his college players, coaches, everyone loves playing with him. He's great for the locker room. While Russ was kind of divisive, I mean, some players will be like they think it's like his Christian stuff's fake, and I don't have any real opinion on that, but that's what some people think. And if you go to that team where the Legion of Boom was the best that team's ever been, he fits what that team was. And
well,
so you're going to the same coach with a lot of, well, not a lot, but some of the same pieces, and to establish that culture there, I think that's just kind of the best way to do it.
Well, even
I also feel like Seattle is the right move.
To add to your point, it wasn't just the religious stuff. If you remember, like the whole defense low key hated Russ for like 50% of the time that they were there together. Like Richard Sherman had beef with him. I don't think Bobby Wagner did, but like half the players secondary did. Everyone was mad at him.
Yeah.
And it might have not been for the right reasons. It might have been because he threw that interception, which was just a bad call. But like it's also with the locker room. It showed that he couldn't mend that. And he had problems in the locker room. And I don't know if I can label Russ as a problem locker room guy. I don't think he has any characteristic of that. But Baker's definitely easier to rally around, I think.
Yeah.
It's hard to rally around Russ. He's a corny-ass dude.
All it says about Seattle is that it was like getting stagnant. They just needed to change the scenery. I don't think it says anything necessarily bad about either parties. It was just kind of, it's been like this for a decade. Something's got to change.
Yeah.
I also think that there's a possibility that Seattle isn't looking for a right now guy, that they're looking for to wait and pick up one of those top quarterbacks in the draft. To like trade up and get one of those guys potentially. But I don't really know. I mean, I don't know what scenario they're really in because they have a lot of like not young guys, but they have like, you know, guys like 26 to 28-year-old guys that
they
are
got
like pretty darn good.
Like DK, Jamal Adams, Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, they have Noah Fant now, who's another guy that I'm high on Noah Fant.
I mean,
like there's
all
just
these guys are guys, but none of these guys are game changers, and none of these guys are attributing.
I would say DK. I'd say DK is.
DK.
I'd say probably,
for sure.
Who's a receiver,
probably Blitz Boy.
5 receiver.
Luke likes that I called him Blitz Boy.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I'm just saying that whole team. I mean, there's pieces there, but there's not enough pieces where you literally next year you could draft best available player, because there's like the only spot there that you're saving maybe is you don't really need to draft wide receiver and you don't need to draft strong safety.
Yeah.
Other than that, your team is not good. I get that they could add a guy or want to add a quarterback and try to win now, but there ain't no way they win now. I don't think there's not enough.
I don't think that there's not a market for a quarterback that would be an upgrade over what they had with Russ, right? None of those guys are potentially on the move.
Yeah.
None of the ones that are better than him.
Right. Well, Deshaun Watson was like their only closest option.
Right, and they weren't even really in the running for him. Nobody ever thought
they weren't at all,
from
what I heard. Yeah.
Well,
right, that's what I'm saying. Like, we never heard anything about him.
What guy, if you add, bridges the gap or is so much better than Russ that he's going to take you to the next level? The only guy that you ever want is, or be able to add or could add, maybe never. You could never do it, but would want is like Pat or Josh Allen.
Right, like if you could grab. If there's like the top 5 guys, if you could grab one of them, I would feel like, that makes sense why you did that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you grabbed Pat, Josh Allen, if you grabbed Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, I would still say, okay, well, they're trying to win right now. And that is still a potential upgrade over Russ, right?
But it's pretty apparent that Seattle's going through a light rebuild right now.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't know how wide of a rebuild that is. Like, are they going to grab just a young quarterback who's already a little bit established, or are they going to pick one up in the draft? I don't know.
No, they're going to have to draft someone.
Or are they going to ride with
They'll probably wait.
Or are they going to ride with Drew Lock for a year?
I think they'll probably ride with.
I mean, that's what your quarterback is. Whatever quarterback they have next year.
I mean, potentially it does. I mean, we really haven't seen a lot of it used.
Where?
That's what I'm saying.
I'd make an argument that the only thing that it works is a hard rebuild. Maybe the Chiefs.
I agree.
The Chiefs, but that's not even a rebuild, really. They were
winning. That was never a rebuild because they had they were winning with Alex Smith. They were
they were making the playoffs perennially.
There's an argument.
Cincinnati with Andy Dalton, they were having 10-win seasons.
No, but they
wasn't a hard rebuild.
Got the first overall.
But they were terrible for like 4 years.
They got the first.
I mean, just because you're terrible doesn't mean it's a heavy rebuild. They didn't strip it down to the studs.
Hard rebuild to me, it doesn't mean it has to be multiple years. It can be 1 year where you're awful. But that doesn't mean your best players are hurt. It means your roster is awful 1 year, and that's what happened with Cincinnati, and they got the first overall pick. It was a hard rebuild.
Right.
Like there's a good argument. There is almost never a soft rebuild that works, and that's a great way to put your team in purgatory.
Right, because like the Lions have been more or less trying that for years with Matt Stafford.
They've been rebuilding for years. Like it's a never ending.
But they had pieces. Then they were like, we're just gonna hit the middle of the pack and we're not gonna strip it down, but we're just gonna try to win less games and pick up somebody.
Same thing with the Jaguars, the Jets, and the Giants. They just sit at the bottom of the pack every single year, hoping they're gonna get better. But like they need to actually do something.
Yeah.
All right. My take for where Baker Mayfield will go is the Carolina Panthers. I think they desperately need quarterback and corner, and they can compete in a weak NFC. The NFC is not
imagine how funny that actually is, though, because him and Sam Darnold came from the same draft class.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
They were 1 and 2. That's a good meme.
Yeah. I don't think you have to work on your corner position. I think next year you just let
that's not the same draft class.
Are they not? Baker
and Baker were the same.
Allen and Josh
They were in the same draft.
They were all in the same one.
It was Baker, Saquon.
Because Baker was with Lamar.
And then Lamar.
Yeah, Lamar was with Sam too.
They were all together.
Okay, I forgot Sam was in that one. I didn't remember Sam being in that one. In my mind, Sam was in the other one.
The Kyler
my bad.
one?
Run that back. Yeah, run that back.
But anyways, I think they need to add Gilmore back. I think they need to retain Stephon Gilmore to lock down their secondary, and then they need to bring in a quarterback. And then the NFC is weak. They can compete in that because, like, right now, you name NFC teams. Hold on, my low battery pop up. Okay. Right now, you name NFC teams that can compete for the Super Bowl. It's the Buccaneers, the Packers, the Rams, the 49ers. That's it. That's all I can name. What?
Cardinals.
Oh, Cardinals. Yeah. So that's 5 teams. That's still 2 seeds that need to be filled out. I think the Panthers, if they make a move, can be the 6 or 7 seed.
I think the Commanders are up there too. I mean, I don't think that they're actively in it, but I think that they
just
can
a quarterback
get
away.
up into.
The Commanders have a great defense, and they have Mclaurin. I think them losing Brandon Sheriff kind of hurts.
And they have a decent running back room. I mean, I like Ant Gibson and I like J.D. McKissick.
They're the same as last year, though.
Yeah, I know.
But worse.
But the NFC's weaker.
The team's kind of young.
I mean,
the more and more I think about Carson Wentz signing, the more I like it.
I love the Carson Wentz signing.
I don't think
because when the Eagles almost won that Super Bowl, that was kind of a similar build to this team.
Yeah, I agree.
Nothing changes in Washington until they get a different quarterback.
I personally think
they just
Carson
did.
Overhated.
Wentz, I don't think he's a real quarterback. Do you think
quarterback
that's going to carry him? Do you think he's a real guy who's going to go out and win a game?
I think he can. I think he can. I don't think he's going to.
He's done it before.
Then we'll see.
Yeah, he did in Philly. I mean, he was an MVP candidate for a while in Philly.
He's an MVP candidate.
He's going to – no, I'm not going to argue against that because I don't think there's a chance he's an MVP candidate like he was in Philly.
No, I don't think he's an MVP candidate this year, but I think he's a Pro Bowl level guy. I think he's a low-level Pro Bowler.
If you think he's that guy, he would have done it last year.
I don't know, right off the injury.
I don't know.
Yeah. Tough AFC.
And a tough division, really.
Now he doesn't have the best.
Well, no, not that's. I take that back. Not a tough division.
Think about that. He doesn't have the best
about the Titans
football anymore.
Yeah, but I mean that's not a bad O-line.
It's not
in Washington,
but it's not the best one in football, and he can't depend on the run game as much, can he?
Yeah, because Jonathan Taylor.
I don't know. That run game is solid.
Pretty good with Antonio.
It's solid, but it's not Jonathan Taylor.
It ain't Jonathan Taylor. It ain't nothing close.
You're right, but what about I think the football team's defense is probably better than the Colts.
Arguably
100%.
I'd say it's close.
7 is insane.
I think it's very, very good, but it's close.
I think they had a bad year last year defensively compared to what they had the year before.
I was gonna say, I agree that on paper Washington is a much better godly defense, but after last year you saw them have a mid-year. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to have a bad year, or I'm not saying that it's set in stone that they're even going to have a mid-year. They could have a great year, and I'm not saying that there's a low chance that they have a great year. But what I'm saying is last year after you saw them be mid, there's an argument that they could be mid again this year. And if they're mid and the offense is what it was last year and you're just switching in Carson Wentz, you're going to blow.
I think he's a pretty significant upgrade over Taylor Heineke, though.
Yeah,
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty significant, like by a large margin.
Yeah, me too.
I don't.
And then Terry McLaurin actually has somebody throwing to him now. Like he doesn't have to make these insane catches where he's falling backwards, upside down, and grabs the ball one-handed.
He probably still will.
Oh, he will. He will. He's a great receiver. But
he's built like that.
Yeah, he doesn't have to now. Like he'll have somebody putting it on the spot.
And they still have they have a couple other guys, offensive weapons that I like. Like I like Curtis Samuel as a secondary option.
I think he's a great slot guy.
I think they have Logan Thomas is really a solid tight end too.
Yeah, didn't he get injured late last year?
He got injured for the first bit of the games, but whenever he played, he was absolutely off. We had 6 catches last year.
Oh shit.
Curtis Samuel?
Yep.
No, Logan Thomas, I think.
Oh, Logan Thomas.
No, I'm talking about Curtis Samuel, bro.
Oh, okay. I thought we were talking about Logan Thomas.
Gotcha. Logan Thomas.
Yeah, Curtis Samuel had a pretty bad year.
Okay, Curtis Samuel. He played 5 games last year.
Yep.
But in those 5 games, so I'm going to give you that. And it was off injury. And whenever you're only playing 5 games in a year and it's off and on, you're not going to do well.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is 5 games, that's enough to have over 6 receptions. That's barely more than one a game. Let's see.
But he only had 9 targets. You have to take into effect that he had 9 targets.
But he ain't getting open.
I mean, maybe. But I mean, I wonder what his snap count was during that.
Well, how good's Washington receivers?
They got Terry, him. There's one guy. He's number 1. I can't think of, but he's number 1.
Sims?
What is it?
There's a guy on there named Steven Sims.
Yeah, Steven Sims. I don't know if he's the number 1, but I don't know. You're right. He does play for them still.
But like those guys aren't good. I mean, Terry McLaurin's the 1A, but if you got 1A, you got. I mean, and he can only catch.
He only started one game. Casey.
Okay,
he played in.
That kills your argument that he's a good offensive weapon because he wasn't even starting last year.
Well, if you look at him in
starting based
Carolina,
on injury stuff.
I think he had a great year in Carolina there. I don't know stats off the top of my head, but I think he had a pretty solid year for a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 in Carolina.
77 receptions on 97 targets for 851.
Yeah,
and 3
so
touchdowns.
You got DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson starting above him, so I think you can still argue.
And for reference, that's with
that was the Teddy
Bridgewater and PJ Walker as the starting quarterbacks. So yeah.
Are we going to talk about the USFL any? Is that something we can do next step? I don't have much to say. I love Jordan Ta'amu. I watched him a lot at Ole Miss, and I thought he was worthy of an NFL spot. But he's kind of bounced around the XFLs and practice squads, and so I really want to see him play.
We can talk on it next episode a little bit if you want. I think we're getting pretty close on time, give or take. I think we're around 55 minutes or something.
Yeah.
So if we want to go ahead and close it down, we can. Unless there's anything else you guys want to say.
No, you
off the top of my head, I think we're good.
All right. So thank you everybody for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving us a like. It helps us get recommended to more people. We post new episodes every Sunday, give or take. I think this is probably going to come out on Monday. So check us out again. Thanks.